I rise this morning to provide this honorable House with a brief on an innovative training seminar conducted recently by the Department of Public Prosecutions, or DPP, for government departments and enforcement officers. This demonstrates a systemic and collaborative approach, especially in these austere times when creativity and the best use of all available resources are vital. Mr. Speaker, there are various government departments that are able to investigate offenses under specific legislation and prepare files for consideration for prosecution by the Department of Public Prosecutions. Some of the departments with such investigative powers are fisheries, animals wardens, parks, waste management, and planning, who all have enforcement officers that deal with the public and thereby investigate offenses under legislative provisions in their respective states. Mr. Speaker, over the last year, a need was identified for non-police government departments with investigative powers to have some training in offense investigations, case file preparation, and prosecutions. The Department of Public Prosecutions and the Bermuda Police Service, or BPS, met with the relevant department's heads and developed a training seminar for the various enforcement officers to interact with the public and investigate offenses. Mr. Speaker, a 3-day training seminar was held on the 14th, 15th, 16th of October 2020 at the Police Recreation Club, when 30 participants were given formal presentations and practical exercises on a range of topics to support investigations and prosecutions. The aim of the training seminar was to equip the enforcement officers with the knowledge and skills to be able to investigate cases and prepare high-quality files for court purposes, and then to give evidence in the court. Mr. Speaker, the scenario for the practical exercise was based on a man without a commercial fishing license selling prohibited species of fish in a public park during the summer period. A prospective buyer rode into the park on a motorcycle, having destroyed the park gate locks. This individual, with a dog on a leash, purchased the fish and littered the area. Then the dog escaped, attacked, and bit a member of the public who was in the park. The seminar participants then had to investigate this case, interview witnesses, take notes, seize exhibits, prepare witness statements, submit a file to the DPP's office, meet with prosecutors to discuss the case, and then appear in court at trial to give evidence for the Crown, and then be cross-examined. These circumstances called upon the experience and skills of the various departments involved and contain the kinds of offenses that the officers have to deal with on a regular basis. Mr. Speaker, the BPS presented on the following topics: the peace model to be used for interviewing people and taking witness and caution statements, types of evidence, how to capture evidence, photos, GoPros, pocket notebooks, recording events, 5 building blocks of investigations, identification, evidence, continuity of seized evidence, exhibit bags and numbers, the role of the court liaison unit, preparing for trial, first appearance in plea court, disclosure, and trials. Safety equipment worn and used by the BPS, including body cameras, and lastly, forensic support and investigating scenes of crimes. Mr. Speaker, the DPP's office presented on the following topics: an overview of the investigation and prosecution process, powers of arrest, power of entry, power of seizure, detention, PAC, case file documents, contents of a file, courtroom procedure, drafting changes, prosecutions and court appearances, the role of the DPP, the prosecutor, charge approval process, trial process from charge to verdict and sentence, evidence in general, if the burden and standard of proof, giving evidence in court and being cross-examined, and lastly, several of the DPP's Crown Counsel paid both prosecutors and defense lawyers for the practical exercise in the courtroom. Mr. Speaker, there were guest presentations as follows: Mrs. Nadine Carpus presented on the work of the government lab. Ms. Elizabeth Christopher presented on how defense lawyers address cases. Mr. Speaker, the enforcement officers and their heads of department were extremely pleased with the training seminar and expressed their sincere thanks to the DPP's office personnel and the BPS personnel on their professional presentations. Mr. Speaker, as part of the follow-up after the seminar, the DPP's office and BPS have made recommendations to the participating departments to implement various investigation and case preparation practices, as well as securing investigation and safety equipment. This will allow for the departments and their enforcement officers to be able to prepare quality files for review and prosecution. In turn, this will result in offenders being brought to the courts for committing a range of nuisance offenses that affect the quality of life for everyone, such as littering in public places, such as parks and public walks, and offending in public parks, offending against our fishery laws designed to protect vulnerable species and marine life, as well as people constructing unlawful structures on their premises, much to the annoyance of their neighbors and creating unsafe environments. So members of the public, and indeed honorable members of this House, are to be warned that there are properly trained and equipped non-police enforcement officers in the community who are eagerly ready to investigate and prosecute offenders for relevant offenses against our law. Mr. Speaker, similar training seminars are planned for other government departments with enforcement powers as well, in addition to annual refresher training seminars. I take this time to applaud the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for creatively arranging for and delivering this training. We look forward to the results. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.